who's the guy you like for him at that spot?
Well, I've always felt if one of the top four receivers were there, I'd pick that receiver. I wouldn't take receiver out of the mix in round one, but I had all four of them, and that being Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs the third, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson from LSU, all off the board when they pick at 24. I really like Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma. I have him off the board. So I went with Patrick Queen, the linebacker from LSU. He's versatile. First time I ever saw him, he was a running back at Livonia, kind of a stand-up defensive end, rushing the quarterback. He's maybe 185 pounds back then. He's gotten a little bit bigger. He reminds me a lot of Debo Jones coming out of LSU. And Debo was an edge guy, and the Falcons kicked him inside linebacker. He's really played well there. Super productive for LSU last year. You look the last 6 or 7 games, he was their most productive player. He was the MVP, the national championship game. The one thing about him is he doesn't have to come off the field. On third down, I can match him up in the coverage part of the game against a tight end. I don't have to go to this nickel and dime because of him. And you look at the Saints' depth or lack of at linebacker with, Anzalone coming off another injury, Kiko Alonso, his third ACL injury. It just makes all the sense that Patrick Queen would be a good fit. But it really came down to 3 players for me for the Saints. Queen was one. The other one being Zach Bond, the outside linebacker from Wisconsin, a really good edge rusher. Hasn't been used a ton in the coverage part of the game. But on third down, I want him rushing the quarterback because he can do that really, really well. And then Ross Blacklock from TCU, the defensive tackle. The Saints spent a lot of money last year on Malcolm Brown. This year to re-sign David Onyemata. I'm not real sure where this goes with Sheldon Rankins because of the injuries and the finances. Blacklock could be a guy in play there. So really it came down to a lot of defensive players for me for the Saints at 24 because I think if you don't get that top 4 guys at receiver, man, they all jumbled up on the back end. It's the best year I've ever done at wide receiver. Thickest, most talented group, and get used to it, the NFL, because they coming in a wave that like you've never seen before. And I think you could get great value at the wide receiver position in the 3rd, 4th rounds. Other thing, too, to watch, Sean Payton's always been aggressive. Certain players. I really think this team will try to get back into round 2. They traded that 2nd-round pick off a year ago for Eric McCoy. I think they're going to look to jump back into round 2. And if that's the case, I think it would be for a specific wideout.
Okay. And possibly one of the ways you mentioned Zach Braun, one of the ways that maybe could get back into round 2 is potentially trading back. He's a guy that isn't being talked about in that upper half of the first round, a guy that's being considered kind of that late first rounder, right?
Yeah. And he's a really good player. Bobby will love this. He's a former quarterback. And so, that part of the game, he was a high school quarterback, and he ran the 100-meter dash and the 4x400-meter relays. Man, I don't care, what state you in, you fast. If you're in the state meet for the 100-meter dash and the 4x400-meter relays, you're a fast guy. Got hurt early on with a foot injury, and last 2 years, he's played extremely well. Last year, he was just terrific for the Badgers coming off the edge. And that school has churned out a lot of really good front 7 players that can get after the quarterback. And if your name's Watt, you're one of them. In fact, 2
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, looking at some of the Saints later round picks, currently they have a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. What are some of the options you think are some quality players that they could potentially be looking at in those later rounds?
Well, my feeling is if you don't get that wide receiver early, you're going to go back. And I wouldn't be surprised this team double dip for wide receivers. Cornerback is another area, to me, of need. You never have enough good cover corners. And you might say, well, we got a starter, in Jack Rabbit. He's going to start on one side, Lattimore on the other. Thing about it is, what happens if you have an injury? Then you got to go to Patrick Robinson. He's getting up in age. He's had injuries. And PJ Williams, really, I thought last year played better in the nickel safety position than he did at corner. I would love to see them go after a cornerback. And it's a guy, we were talking about before we even taped this, Amik Robertson. I got to see Amik play in high school at Thibodeau High School. I always told him he was the best cover cornerback I've ever seen on the Bayou. And I've been around a few years. I've seen some guys that are really good. He's the very best. Great ball skills, 14 pass interceptions at Louisiana Tech. And I think if I put Coach Ogeron on the lie detector machine and he said anybody other than Amik is a guy that he missed on the biggest, it would be Amik. They did offer him, but it was late in the process, and Amik had already made up his mind to go to Louisiana Tech. I think he'd be a great pick for them. I also see the Saints looking for an offensive lineman in the middle rounds, where I think that's where you see a lot of this. Guys kind of get pushed back a little bit. The tackles go early, but the center guards sort of hang around a little bit. Solomon Kinley from University of Georgia, a big wide body offensive guard, I think would be a real nice pickup for them. And somebody that can help you, maybe necessarily not as a starter, but can help you on special teams and can be that role player. The NFL has become that. Third down efficiency plays, nickel corners, specialists as a pass rusher, flex tight ends, fourth receivers, even running back, I think, later on in the draft. So I do see that occurring with this football team. And, man, and don't give me that this team is so good that no rookie can make this team. All I know is last year, DeAndre Harris. Didn't he make this team as an undrafted rookie? Little Jordan Humphreys from Texas. Didn't he make this team as an undrafted rookie? Shy Tuttle, defensive tackle. Didn't he make this team? Undrafted rookie. They had 18 new players on the team that had went to the NFC Championship game. Listen, you always want to replenish your roster. You're always looking for, if not a starter, backup people, role people, people that can help you on special teams. And, Harris, he was a perfect fit for what they needed to run back punts and kicks for him. And I think you're going to see his role expand as a receiver this year. So I've never bought that. The same thing about best player on the board. Come on. When you go to the grocery store, you ain't buying just deals. You buying what you need. If somebody says you need bread or you need something to eat, you going for that. Now, you might make a deal on something, but you mainly going to the store for needs. That's what the draft's about. It's about filling needs. I've never believed that stuff about best player on the board. That's a bunch of horse hockey to me.
All right. And then just lastly, are there any sleepers out there, maybe a Louisiana guy that could potentially, work his way into, a guy that we, could be talking about mid-season, and this is a guy that maybe should have been looked at as a guy that's a little bit, a higher round pick.
Well, I looked at University of Louisiana, and I see a guy. He's my number one ranked guard, in Robert Hunt. He got hurt late, had a groin injury. He couldn't participate at the Senior Bowl or even in the bowl game for him. So I think had he went to the Senior Bowl, we may be talking about Robert Hunt as a first round pick. I think he falls probably into the latter part of round 2 or maybe in the early part of round 3. I think he's a guy that's going to start real quick in the NFL. And the guy on the other side of him, Kevin Dotson from Plaquemine High School, was a tremendous player last year for the Raging Cajuns. I like him a lot as a middle round pick. Thickly built guy, pure guard, a tremendous run blocker. He's got much better in the pass protection part of the game. And I think he's one heck of a player. And Ladarius Sneed from Louisiana Tech. He's played both cornerback and also free safety. He was one of the fastest guys at the combine. I really think he's better off as a free safety. But here's the thing. A lot of times you were going to Louisiana Tech and you said, man, Amik Robinson's a really good player. Who's that other guy on the back end? Snead's really good too. Was not a highly recruited football player when he came out of high school. Goes to Louisiana Tech. He's been a 2.5 year starter there. Tremendous foot speed, but I think is really much better as a free safety than a corner. Though he could play in that nickel dime scheme, also help you out on special teams part of it. And man, a guy I don't know if he gets picked, but Chase Forcade from Nickel State. Chase is a guy that I saw what he did to that program, which was down and out. And he was part of a group that just put the sound back in Guidry Stadium. He isn't the biggest guy around, but he's got a real strong arm. He throws the football well in the short, intermediate parts of the game. He's a leader, high study guy, high character young man. And I'd love to see Chase Forcade wearing that black and gold.